5, the day after, a very exciting day in sports, although you wouldn't have known it if you watched either of the sports channels here, that we had an NBA team in Toronto, in Canada, that actually was a champion a couple years ago. Not 1 second of local coverage of the NBA trade deadline on TSN, the station that had the all-female broadcast the day before, and they were patting themselves, way to go, we did it. And it was a great broadcast.
Right.
But the next day, you've got NBA stuff up the wazoo. Is Lowry staying or going? Is Powell going or staying? Are they going to make a deal, 5 deals? Wouldn't you want to have your best people on it? No. Let's take the ESPN feed. It's ridiculous. So we're going to get into that. And there's several issues today to talk about. Very excited about this, Mike.
No, I can't wait to get into it. Hebsy, I'm going to tweet a link at you right now, and you can retweet this. So.
I just heard the link being tweeted.
Yeah, that's somebody else. Mine hasn't been sent yet.
Oh. Is it annoying when you're listening to two people talk, and then you hear in the background, boop, or a phone goes off, or
I've got used to it. I've got used to it. Like, it's happened so much over the past year. If I got annoyed every time. So it doesn't
annoy you when you're like, hey, how come they weren't taking every precaution to make sure that there are no extraneous noises during this broadcast? No. Or is this sort of part of life? If I'm on the phone with someone and I hear a ping go off, I don't go, hey, are you paying attention to me, or are you listening to your device?
It's the sign of
ubiquitous.
It's the sign of ultimate respect when your guest actually turns off their notifications. That means they truly respect your time.
All right. Have you tweeted that yet? Folks, that's why we have a red carpet show. This is like the lead up stuff. If you're watching it or listening live, great. And if you're watching later, we will have edited this part out. No, we would have told you that the red carpet part is prior to the actual show. So you can choose to go, who wants to hear the red carpet?
Well, that's a good question, Hebsy. So people know how the sausage is made. I edit the audio, which will not include this part, but you edit the video on your YouTube. Do you take out this part?
No.
Okay.
No, all I do is I put an index in with time codes. So that if you, for example, want to hear us talk about Tim Peel, the NHL ref that got fired because he said something that everybody knows, you would go to the 42-minute mark or wherever we have it on today's show. I'll index all those things. Now, that's kind of like putting out an album and saying, if you want to skip the first 5 cuts, here, cut 6 is at 18 minutes.
Sure.
Which is a great thing. Most people would say, no, we want you to listen to the whole thing. You have to watch the whole thing. I'm more like, look, I know that your attention span isn't necessarily an hour. It might be 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Let me give you an opportunity to choose the best 10 or 15 minutes or 8 minutes or 20 minutes you want to hear by putting the subjects down with the corresponding time code.
Did you retweet that link before we forget?
Which link?
You should have been tagged in a tweet that I sent.
No, nothing here, buddy. Oh, there it is. Didn't show up on my notifications, though.
Oh, that's weird. That's weird. So it's because you've muted me, I think. That's why.
Live. Okay, hang on a second, will you?
I guess better to be muted than blocked. What's worse, being muted or blocked?
I don't know. What's the difference?
Well, muted means the other person never knows. Like, they don't know that they've been blocked. You just don't see their stuff. Blocked, I mean, it'll say, like, yeah, this user has blocked you.
So if you want to be a real jerk about it, you would block them so that they know that you're pissed at them.
Right.
But if you just wanted to, surreptitiously not pay any attention to what they have to say, you mute them.
It's like like a ninja stealth ignore. I think some people get off on being blocked by certain people. Like, they want to be blocked. So it's almost like that's their trophy. So if you really want to, like, fuck with them, you just mute them. That way you don't get their garbage, but they have no idea that they got to you.
I'm interested to hear how people get off these days. Not on this particular show, just what gets them off.
Get your
okay, you ready to start this, baby?
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's do it, buddy. Here, stand by. All right.
Welcome to Hebsy on Sports, episode number 225. Great to have you along. I'm Mark Hebsher, and over there is Toronto Mike. I never know which direction I'm pointing in. I used to be on camera for TV. It was like, all right, you're looking straight. Jim is to your right. really your monitor's over there. Now, whenever I see stuff, sometimes it's backwards, pointing this way when you want to go that way. Anyway, here we are in beautiful Technicolor video and in, I believe, 8K audio.
16, I think.
16K audio. Mark Hebsy and Toronto Mike. And the Leafs win in overtime last night. Norm Powell goes. Kyle Lowry stays. A terrific all-female hoops broadcast. But was it a one-off, or will we see more of that? Because it was good. Would the Leafs do an all-female broadcast? Would the Blue Jays do an all-female broadcast? The challenge is out. Is Dan Schulman on the broadcasting hot seat? Not because he's not a female, but because he's going to have to do yeoman's work as a radio and television commentator, a hybrid, as it were. Talk about that. The NHL fires referee Tim Peel because he dared to mention something that's been going on for years. Even up calls, make-up calls, directing the flow of the game. So we'll talk about that as well. Sports radio takes another big hit, this time in Vancouver, where they blew out 3 more big names a couple weeks after they shuttered the entire all-sports station.
Wow.
What the hell is going on?
Wow.
And if you know someone, a young person that wants to get into the media business, sports media business, what would you tell them? Oh, I want to be a radio sports talk show host. There's only 3 of them in the whole country now, it seems. And what's tougher, Mike, playing 1,000 NHL games, playing 1,000 NBA games, or since their schedule is twice as long, playing 2,000 Major League Baseball games? What's tougher? What's more difficult to achieve? It's all up for discussion, but first, let's say hi to Toronto Mike again. Anything exciting happen to you in this rainstorm? Any flooding at your place like at my house?
But I could hear it. Like I was thinking, when was the last time you could hear rain coming down? It feels like it hasn't rained in forever. Is that just like, I noticed because, as you know, I like to get on my bike every day. Have you ever seen the rain?
Yeah.
No, but it I could hear it coming down last night. That's for sure. I got to check for flooding down here.
Oh, I had it here in the basement apartment. But compared to yesterday, yesterday afternoon, you knew the bad weather was coming, and people were getting in their last few minutes or hours of outdoor enjoyment. The patios were packed down where I am. People were out in the parks. It was amazing, and you could sort of see them going, this could be it for a while.
It was like
20
summer
degrees.
That was my first. Believe it or not, that was the first day I wore shorts on a bike ride this year. Was yesterday. I
played golf on Monday.
I saw the pictures.
Like, golf? Where are you playing?
Where were you playing?
We found a place in Port Perry. Crosswinds isn't open yet. Not for another week or so, although they said they're opening soon. But the weather got so great that this particular course is, we're open. $30 to play all day.
Wow.
And drove out there and just had a wonderful time. It was gorgeous.
You're a diehard here. What was your score? How did you shoot?
I shot 86 from the ladies' tees. Well, the front tees, they're called. They're called the front tees because this early in the season, they don't want to make up all the different tee boxes, right? They have to maintain them and whatever. So they just open one tee box, which is the furthest forward.
Well, I realize now, I heard this story because you were on Humble and Fred this week.
Well, you asked me the same question that Humble and Fred asked me. So there you go. All right,
86.
Let's get to this big show.
Okay.
On Wednesday night, TSN, the sports network, not Toronto Sports Network, the Sports Network, TSN, made broadcast history when an all-female cast and crew covered the Raptors Denver Nuggets game. The Raptors had lost 9 in a row, but on this night, why is this night different from all other nights? Because on this night, the Raptors broke their 9-game winning streak with the entire production crew and announcing crew being of the female gender. Never happened before. They did an outstanding job. Everybody involved. Great job. And let's face it, they had a great game to cover. And that 9-game losing streak, ended. And everybody was pretty excited about it. But it happened just prior to the trade deadline. And instead of everybody patting each other on the back for a job well done, and it was, TSN should have followed that up the next day by having at least a couple of those women on the air to cover the NBA trade deadline when they knew that Kyle Lowry and or Norm Powell for sure would be dealt, right? If the Raptors weren't going to make any deals, I could see them saying, we're not going to cover it as much. But this is the same network that covers 1,000 hours of NHL trade deadline with, I don't know how many people are involved in that production. On air, there's got to be 15 people involved. and who knows how many behind the scenes. But for TSN to do the same for basketball, of which they cover many, many, many Raptors games, is an absolute crying shame and a slap in the face to all the women that did that broadcast and yet may never get a chance to follow up. The perfect chance would have been the next day. I would have liked to have heard from Kia Nurse. I would have liked to have heard from Kayla Gray or Megan McPeak. I would have liked to have heard from somebody on TSN. It could have been Jack Armstrong, Leo Routens, Rod. It doesn't matter. But why wouldn't you have brought those women back the next day? Not to pat on the back, say, good job last night, because they did. They're professionals, all of them. But to allow them to continue with their coverage, their expertise, their commentary, and perhaps future members of the TSN Raptors broadcast crew. How tough is that? How big a stretch is that? But instead, the idiots at TSN are like, okay, congratulations, girls. You got your game in there, and we'll get a day's worth of social media. And then as soon as the next game comes, it's all forgotten. So my suggestion is this, Mike, and I hate to say it, it was a one-off. They never planned on having these women get together again to be part of a thing. It was like, let's do it once and then hope it grows from there. Where what they should have done is said, let's take, like Kia Nurse to me is a star. I wanted to hear from her as a guard to talk about Norm Powell, to talk about Kyle Lowry, what it's like to be traded. She was just traded a while ago too, Kia Nurse. So that expertise I want. No offense to Jack Armstrong or Leo Routens, who haven't really been involved in the game in a long time. Kia Nurse is an active player in the WNBA. So why wouldn't I want to, if I heard from her the night before doing color commentary on the Raptors Nuggets game, why wouldn't I want to hear her the next day on TSN, that same station, talking about the trade deadline, talking about Lowry, how important he is to the franchise, Norm Powell, breaking down the trade. It was terrible. And did Sportsnet do any better? No. And in fact, I tweeted out yesterday morning, what kind of local coverage are we going to have? Raptors TV? Nothing. Nothing. They replayed a game from the night before. Sportsnet, which covers the Raptors a lot too, guess what they were on, Mike? At 3:00, okay? Mm-hmm. Michael Grange and Brad Fay on Sportsnet 1. Which a lot of people don't get. You don't get it, do you?
I don't get it.
You don't pay for the premium.
I don't get it.
So you wouldn't have gotten any coverage at all because you didn't pay the premium for Sportsnet 1. But the other thing was Sportsnet, Ontario and Pacific and the West, you know what they had on? A 2-year-old poker tournament.
Oh, wow.
So as I'm flipping to Sportsnet going, where's Grange? He said he was going to be on at 3:00. I went, wait a minute. They wouldn't put it on Sportsnet 1. And they did. And that to me does a disservice to Raptors fans, to NBA fans. And when you compare it to the way they cover hockey and the NHL trade deadline, it's a fucking crying shame.
Wow. On fire. Hebsy, where do I start here? If I may. We all know why they go wall to wall with hockey coverage on NHL trade deadline day. We know exactly why they put everybody there, Duthie and Dreger and the whole gang. You know why? Do you know why?
Mike, we're talking about their coverage of NBA.
Right.
All right.
Right.
We all know about hockey. The Raptors have been around for many years.
Have they ever done
won a championship 2 years ago.
Right.
They cover their games. They cover them on their sportscast. They do live broadcasts of
Sure,
them.
they own the team partly.
Yeah. We're not compared. We understand that there's 7 NHL teams in Canada and there's 1 NBA team. We understand that 60% of all players or more are from Canada, which means everybody who watches in Canada has like 1 degree of separation from an NHL player.
Right.
Not true in the NBA. It's catching up. It may never be that. You're not going to have 60% of all NBA players be from Canada. But the point is that there are enough players from Canada and a Canadian team that's in the spotlight that justifies more than the minimal coverage they had. And for TSN to just click onto ESPN's feed of The Jump, which is a great show with Rachel Nichols, and expect them to talk only Raptors without having even a cut-in, even like a 5-minute cut-in, top of the hour. All right, here's Rod, here's Leo, here's Kate, here's Kayla. Somebody.
I hear you.
Is just ridiculous.
I might even agree that they should be covering NBA trade deadline, but they never have because apparently it doesn't bring in enough eyeballs.
Now was the time to do it. And they don't have to cover wall to wall. Do a 5-minute insert. Okay. You're going to have people there for your afternoon sportscaster for Sports Desk or whatever they call Sports Center. Why not have them come in a little bit early? Now, I know it's a couple bucks more. You've got experts. They're sitting there twiddling their thumbs while Rachel Nichols and Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins and everybody at ESPN is doing their thing and occasionally mentioning Raptor stuff. And then when they finally come to Michael Grange and Brad Fay, they're, all right, you guys are on. They're scrambling to try to get information.
Right.
Michael Grange even said, "I'm waiting for Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski, who's like the NBA insider.
Sure.
He's waiting to hear from Woj any details on Lowry or on Powell. I mean, it's just sad because they don't get the support from the network. TSN and Sportsnet should be saying, guys, we're doing all this Raptor stuff. The Raptors are hugely popular. They just did an all-female broadcast. Let's get in on that. No,
I like how you're thinking because you're right. And at 3:00 today, how many of us were like checking our Twitter feed? Like, is Lowry still a Raptor? Like that was quite the moment at 3 p.m. yesterday.
They missed a golden opportunity, especially Mike, on the heels of a feel-good moment in TV sports history. A feel-good moment. You know, I think a lot of people watch that broadcast and we're waiting for them to fail or go, oh, no, we don't like that. We want to hear Jack and we want to hear, Matt and we want to hear Leo and Rod. But I didn't see one negative because it was a good broadcast. They're professionals and they did a great job. Should that be a huge surprise? Maybe to some people it is. But to not follow that up the next day is a crime. If I'm one of those girls and I'm going, well, okay, I'm flipping on TSN the next afternoon at 2:00 or 3:00. Okay, there's the jump. There's Rachel Nichols. There's ESPN. Where's the TSN coverage? Where's the TSN expertise? Where's the Raptors angle? Where's Josh Lewenberg, who's a great reporter? But you end up hearing his stuff sort of after the fact. Why wouldn't they stick him over and they cut in? Let's go to Josh Lewenberg. Josh, what do you know? Who are you talking to? What's happening? Nothing. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I like the Norm Powell deal because he was gone anyway.
Right.
But I would have liked some local perspective. I would like some type of if you knew he was gone, put a little package together of Norm Powell highlights.
Right.
And say, here's a guy that played, wasn't expected much from. He remember that great shot that he hit in the playoffs. A little retrospective. Like, I don't want to say a eulogy, but you know what I mean? Like a sports eulogy.
Tribute,
he hasn't
maybe.
died, but he's left the team.
Yeah,
Let's
like
look back at his career.
Tribute to a guy, he's a homegrown guy too. We these guys that you draft and you develop, they mean a lot more to us.
They missed the boat and they did a disservice to their listeners. The last time I'm going to say this, but they did a disservice to those female broadcasters, especially the on-air broadcasters who should have been called back or not called back. They should have been told, you know what, guys, we're doing that game. We're putting you all in a hotel or whatever. And then the next day you're coming back in the early afternoon and we're going to do some coverage. Because I looked at their schedule and it's not like they had great programming on that they had to preempt at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
And to do a cut-in is the easiest thing in the world. They go to commercial at ESPN. You see their production schedule, say, okay, we're taking a commercial at 6 minutes after the hour, right? And it's going to be a 4-minute commercial block or whatever. That's where TSN says, perfect. That's where okay, let's join Kayla Gray. Let's join Kate Burness. Let's join Kia Nurse. Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. So why do you think they never have any NBA trade day coverage? They just simply don't think it'll be watched by Canadians?
Well, you don't have to have 12 hours worth, but come on. 2 hours prior to the deadline, you can't put come on, Mike. From
I know.
1 to 3 or 1 to 4, come on.
I'm with you, buddy.
Terrible.
You're right.
Terrible. And like I said, for what it's worth, I like the Powell deal. They got Gary Trent Jr., who's a damn good player. He's 22 years old. Yeah, people are sad to lose Norm. You were going to lose him anyway. You think he was going to pick up his own option for $11 million?
Right.
You're going to make $25 million a year.
Right.
So no brainer. All right. And the Matt Thomas deal and the Terrence Davis trades had to be done because you've got to collect some draft choices. And they got a second-round pick in each. And it'll be a decent pick. And Norm Powell was a second-round pick.
Can I drop a fun fact on you?
Yeah.
So in the NBA currently playing, there are 3 Garys.
Yeah, they all got traded.
All were traded yesterday. All the Garys were traded.
Well, how did you find that out? From me.
I saw it on Twitter. Was it you? Okay, so thank you.
These are the Garys I know.
Oh, I saw you. That is true. I saw your reply. And of course, this is not the first time.
But that's a great stat. That's funny. Yeah. Only 3 guys named Gary in the NBA all got traded.
And if you're having deja vu as a Raptor fan, this is not the first time, we acquired Gary Trent in a deal with Portland.
We got his dad back in the 90s.
Right.
Who was,
but from the same team, right? From the same team.
Yeah, from Portland.
Which is wild, too.
Yeah. Who they play, by the way, Sunday night. You're going to see Norm Powell in a Portland Trailblazers uniform. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
They've got Phoenix tonight. And hey, the trade that didn't happen was the biggest story of them all.
Yeah.
Because when we found out from ESPN that Kyle Lowry was not going to be traded, it was as if we had just made the biggest trade ever. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah,
right.
They didn't trade him. Great, good. I love that.
Do you though?
Because I think that now he may be in a position, Kyle Lowry, to say, I think I'd like to stick around another year, and maybe signs a 2-year deal with the Raptors. And okay, he's going to get less minutes, but he's going to help. How can he not help? The youngsters on this team. How can his attitude not help the Raptors become a contender again? So I love the fact that they didn't. And I love the fact that Masai Ujiri said, you think we're giving him away? No way. And I'm sure they went to Lowry and said, what do you think, Kyle? Where would you like to go? And if we can make it happen, we will. But Kyle, if we can't get full value for you, we're not going to trade you.
I'm curious what year. I wish I could go to another timeline in the universe here and see what would Hebsy say today if they had traded Kyle Lowry to the Heat or something last.
Depends what they got for him.
Okay. Because this was one of those.
They wanted?
What?
They wanted this kid, Tyler Herro. They were going to get Kelly Olynyk, the Canadian, but they wanted Tyler Herro, but he's on a rookie contract. And if you've got a player on a rookie contract, and he's under team control, you're not trading that guy. He's a great player too. And I think that's what the Raptors would have wanted. And Masai Ujiri was not, and Bobby Webster were not going to go off of that. And then they said, the heck with it, we're going to go get Victor Oladipo. And once that happened, then Miami was out of the picture. And I don't know what Philadelphia offered, but whatever it wasn't enough for Masai. And he said, nope. So the announcement that Kyle Lowry was staying was met by me with the same reaction as I would have if it would have been a blockbuster deal for a great player.
Absolutely. I saw your exuberance on Twitter for sure. And by the way, since we're talking about trades, there's another acquisition we need to discuss very briefly. I'm just keeping an eye on the activity on your YouTube page. And Andrew says, don't forget the other acquisition yesterday, your new blue 22. That's
right. Can you see it behind me on the screen there? The Ken Baumgartner jersey?
I do see a number 22 jersey. Yeah, it's not Rick Vaive.
So you know that I grew up as a Leaf fan. Born in Toronto, raised Leafs. Frank Mahovlich was my favorite player. Davey Keon was second. And I'm always looking for Leafs memorabilia because back in the day, you couldn't just pick up a jersey with a name on it. You'd have to go to Doug Laurie Sports, order it, custom made. It would cost you hundreds of dollars and take weeks.
Right.
3 little old ladies stitching it in Cuba somewhere. I don't know. And now you can pick up a jersey anywhere. And so I'm in Kensington Market, which is about 10 minutes from my house. I shop there often. And I spot in one of those vintage stores, the stores I'm talking about, with the racks of clothes for $5, $8, $12. I see Leaf jersey. I see Ken Baumgartner jersey, a blue Leaf jersey with Baumgartner.
Wow.
First thing I thought of was, wow, who would have gone out and gotten a Ken Baumgartner jersey back in 1993, 4, or 5? And why would they get rid of it?
Right.
What did Kenny Baumgartner do that you threw out at the Ken Baumgartner Leaf jersey?
You held on to it that long. Keep it for life.
And the other one was, how long has it been there for? How long has that jersey been sitting in that rack for? How many people have gone through that rack and went, Baumgartner, no. I'm looking for a Wendell Clark. I'm looking for a Matt Sundin. I'm looking for a Phil Kessel, a Brian Leach.
It's punk. I think it's more punk to have a Ken Baumgartner than to have a 13 Matt Sundin.
Right. But you know how much these jerseys cost, even at vintage stores? If you want a nice Leaf jersey, a Sundin or whatever.
What did you pay for the? What did you pay for the Baumgartner jersey?
$40.
Wow.
But what I did was when I saw the jersey and I saw the price, I took a picture of it and I tweeted it out. I said basically it's $40. Should I buy it? And I could not believe the response. Now I've got, I don't know, 5,000 Twitter followers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I could not believe how many people almost immediately within 15 minutes, this was in the afternoon yesterday, saw the picture and went, get it, buy it. And if you don't buy it, I'll buy it. Tell me where are you? People are asking
I'll
where I was.
I'll give you $40 to buy that jersey.
50 people. Somebody offered me $80. Right off the bat. One guy offered me, he's got a Link Gates jersey. That's a former Minnesota North Star, a real thug, bad guy. And he would trade me a Link Gates jersey for a Ken Baumgartner jersey. Wow. So the response was, and people like Ken Reed of Sportsnet, and just tons of people who are into memorabilia, hockey cards, jerseys, you know what I mean? Colors, logos, third jerseys. It's crazy. So I posted it and hundreds of people, get it.
What a find.
So I bought it. And then I took a picture of me Actually, my girlfriend took the picture of me standing outside the thing with a Brett Laurie Blue Jays jersey flying there, and I'm going.
I got one of those too. I got a Brett Laurie
number 13.
Yeah, I got it for my buddy.
So I got
Kick.
the Bomber jersey on.
Yeah.
John Derringer, the morning man at Q107, posts, "Did you get in any fights on the way home?"
He's a big Leaf fan. Yeah,
it's great. So
right.
I did that. It was great.
So thank you, Andrew, for the question. And I just want to say hello to a gentleman named Sinclair Russell, who just discovered your live Friday show, Hebsy on Sports, and he's very excited because he's been looking for something just like this. So he's got his Hebsy back.
Good. I'm glad you're excited. I am as well. One thing that will kill that excitement every time is the sound of a stupid air horn going off when a team scores a goal in an empty arena.
Right.
I get it when there's fans there. It's still obnoxious and annoying when they're visiting team. But this is something that for years was exclusive only to Chicago Blackhawk fans at the Chicago Stadium. It was a real ship's air horn, foghorn, they called it, that they had installed in the Chicago Stadium. And when the Blackhawks scored and it went off, it shook it shook the fillings in your teeth.
Right.
But it wasn't it didn't go on for seconds and it was like, and that was about it. And then other arenas, let's put in a sound. Detroit had this high-pitched sound that I never liked. And in Ottawa, they have this one that goes off. It's like a 10-second long burst. So the first couple seconds, that's cute. And then it's like, oh, God, is this annoying? Boy, is this annoying. This is like scratching fingernails on a blackboard. And then they stop it, and then they start it again. So it's like 3 blasts of like 10 seconds long each, which is just obnoxious.
Right.
Can we get rid of these? Especially in an empty arena. Come on. Luckily, it only went off twice yesterday, Mike, because the Senators only scored 2 goals. And the last time a goal was scored, silence. Except for Leaf players going, yeah, baby. Justin Hall drilling home the overtime winner in a 3-2 Maple Leaf triumph over Ottawa. And Mike, I've got to tell you, the final few minutes of regulation and the entire 3-on-3 overtime was gold. Can you bottle that for me and let the genie out of the bottle every game? I want to see sustained action like that. 10 minutes worth, 20 minutes worth, last few minutes of regulation, all of 3-on-3 overtime. I love it. Anything that happened prior to that was awful. It was terrible hockey, missed passes, goaltenders that can't handle the frickin' puck. Jack Campbell should still have a shutout streak going, Mike. But he proved that stopping the puck is way easier than handling the puck. Like it's a live grenade or something like that. He's got the puck. If you don't get rid of that puck as a goalie within a second and a half, you're going to be in trouble. It's like the punt returner who decides to go this way and then says, no, I'm going to reverse my field. As soon as he reverses his field, he's got about a 1 in 10 chance of escaping, right?
Right.
He's just going to get into more trouble.
Right.
And the same thing with a goalie that overhandles a puck. I thought I was watching Jonathan Bernier there for a second. It's just awful. And he gave away both goals. He gave them, and I'm sure, I didn't hear the quotes. I'm sure it was like, yep, it was on me. Can't blame anybody. The Leafs played an amazing defensive game. But Jack Campbell was his own worst enemy. But luckily, in the overtime, the Leafs scored. And it's just fabulous sustained action. And I felt bad for the goalie for Ottawa, Anton Forsberg, who was like spectacular, making incredible saves. One on Austin Matthews just before the winning goal that I thought was an optical illusion. I thought, how could that puck not go in the net?
What Leaf goalie do you think was the best at handling the puck, and why was it Eddie Belfour?
Who is the best Leaf at goalie at handling the puck?
Yeah,
probably Mike Palmateer.
Okay.
But I mean, in those days, the goalie would exactly don't do that stuff. But Palmateer was wild. If you look at old highlights of him, he's flopping all over. He's making double pad stack saves. He was the most unorthodox goaltender. The most unorthodox. And he realized at a time when his defense was a little weak getting the puck out of their own zone that he might, be able to help them out. But quite frankly, the best goalie I ever saw handling the puck was Ron Hextall.
Right.
He was tremendous.
Right.
He was like another defenseman out there. And if you went anywhere near him, he'd clobber you.
And he has the goals to back it up, right? He's got 2, I think. Doesn't he have 2? I don't know. I can't remember anymore, but he got at least 1. Yeah.
Anyway, Leafs now with 44 points, 2 up on Winnipeg and Edmonton in the Gord Downey division.
Right.
Thanks to Jay Onrait for that Court Downey division, instead of the Northern Scotia division or whatever that gets called. So we're up 2 up on Winnipeg and 2 up on Edmonton. The Oilers are in town tomorrow and Monday. And then guess where the Leafs go? Winnipeg for a pair next week, which I would consider to be big games. I don't like last night they were going, well, this is a big game. And I'm saying, no, it's not. Like, I like Jeff O'Neill. I like the guys on overdrive. But don't overstate something. It wasn't a big game. It wasn't a must-win game for the Leafs, and it wasn't a must-win game for Ottawa. So don't tell me it was a big game and a tough loss. Bullshit like that. It wasn't. It's another game off the schedule. They're all important games. It's a big, big game tonight. The Leafs have to beat Ottawa or else they're fucked. Come on.
I wish he had said that. That would have been cool.
That would have been a good one.
That would. By the way,
good news for Canadian general managers or generals manager. General managers.
General managers.
It's like inspectors general.
It's
right?
like fathers-in-law. Yeah.
Fathers-in-law. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Good news, because the federal government has reduced the quarantine time from 14 to 7 days for players who are traded from U.S.-based teams. Which means that when the NHL trade deadline, which, believe me, will be covered like wall to wall on April the 12th, at that point, general managers of U.S. teams will be less reluctant to trade players to Canadian teams because the quarantine will only be 7 days. The question is, if you're a Canadian GM, how badly do you want a guy that won't be able to play for a week when he arrives in Canada?
Which is not that severe. 1 week is not that bad. But
it's been 1 week since you played for me.
Shout out to the Bare Naked Ladies. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you ever play hockey? Have you ever played hockey with any member of the Bare Naked
Tyler.
Ladies? I thought, okay, he plays a lot of hockey. Okay, cool.
Well, this was a long time ago. And he was a heavy smoker at the time. So he was awful. His burst of speed was from the blue line to center. And he was bagged. I remember I was working at Global and we did a story on him. What do the Bare Naked Ladies do when they're not recording music or out on tour?
Right.
And we had Tyler playing with a bunch of other musicians. I think Dave Bedini was part of that group.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he's always
no, he plays for he plays for a different group. That was anyway.
But a lot of local musicians like to play hockey together.
Well, musicians are like athletes because they work at night. They're used to cheering crowds,
right.
And they're not envious, but their other fantasy probably was to be a superstar athlete. And a lot of athletes are the same. Their fantasy is to be a rock star or a performer.
Sure.
So they get along well with each other, I guess. The Blue Jays.
Yes.
Remember them?
Yes, I do.
You could forget them because they're not on TV very often. Certainly not this spring. But their game tonight against the Phillies is on Sportsnet. And since it's their production, we're going to get another simulcast on radio with Buck and Pat, which was tough to listen to. And I'm sure Buck and Pat were not paying attention to the fact that they were on radio as well.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Just do the game. Just do the game. Now, I reached out to Dan Shulman, and he returned.
Okay, tell me what Dan said.
Well, basically, Dan, if you read the Globe and Mail, I was in an article earlier this week being quoted along with Geddy Lee, Bob McCowan, other Blue Jay
all the
experts, I guess.
Yes.
On what it's like to listen to a simulcast and how the radio broadcast is so much different and should be separate from the TV broadcast. And Shulman told me that it's a really tough situation for him. He didn't say I hate it, but you could sort of tell that he doesn't like being in this position at all because he's got to do his absolute best to serve the radio and television audience in what's going to be a hybrid type of broadcast. And I had said if anybody can pull it off, it's Dan Shulman and Buck. But Dan for sure, because he's done radio and he's a very, very good radio. I would much prefer to hear Dan Shulman do the radio broadcast of a game.
Right.
He's just so good.
Yes, agreed.
And he said, I'm only doing road games.
Okay,
I'm not doing any of the games from Dunedin or Buffalo. That's Pat and Buck doing a TV game of which the radio simulcast will not sound as good as when Dan Shulman is doing the road games for Sportsnet, which are also simulcast on the Fan.
Okay, so to be clear, though, just because this is an interesting point. So when games are at the Blue Jays' home field, wherever the hell that is, it's
Dunedin.
Right now,
probably
it's
till June. Probably till June, because
Okay.
the weather gets ridiculously hot in
So-
Florida then, and they'll likely move to Buffalo. by
So
then.
Buck and Pat are in person, like they're at the game calling it.
Well, wait a second now. I think Buck is in Dunedin. I think Pat is at his home in.
Oh.
No, Pat would have been down in Dunedin. That's
okay.
Right.
So they're at the
but
game.
I don't know if Pat's going to stay. I don't know if Pat's going to stay in Dunedin the whole summer. I don't know.
Okay, because that's my feel. That's
when they go on the road, what does Pat do? Does he go home to Ohio?
Yeah, probably. But when
I'm not that concerned as long as the games are televised and I can hear them on radio.
Okay, and when the Blue Jays are on the road, then it's going to be Buck and Dan, and Dan's at his home here in Toronto calling it.
That's right.
Gotcha. And I'm with you, but I did not hear the Buck and Pat radio simulcast. Can you be more specific? Like, what was missing?
I didn't expect much. They were not told, I'm sure, to consider the radio audience. Work on it. Must be difficult enough to be in two different locations, not being at the field, to try to put a broadcast together where you don't sound like you're doing it from a hermetically sealed booth.
Right.
So I'm sure that the producer said, like, don't worry about the radio part. Forget that. We need to do a good TV broadcast. It's spring training for the broadcasters too, remember. And especially you're doing it from a different location. Few fans there. I don't know how much production value they're putting into their spring training games. So it's odd, but I listened to it and it sounded like two guys who were doing a TV broadcast and you were happened to be listening to their audio only. So not describing the pitch. Here's the pitch. None of that. Look at it on the replay. So not thinking, for those of you on radio, this is what I'm looking at. Not at all. It was just the stripped audio from the TV broadcast, and it sounded like it.
Do you think
I'm scoring the game at home? I can't figure out.
Right.
Was that 6-3? Was that a fly ball to deep right center? Was it deep left center?
I don't think they care about radio audience at all.
They don't. It's obvious that they don't because they're not doing a dedicated broadcast.
Right.
Ben Wagner is on the Sportsnet TV broadcasts.
Right. Well, he's lucky. He's still got the gig, right? They could have cast him off of Wilner, I guess. But okay, so clearly Sportsnet has decided, like, we don't care about radio. The radio listeners don't make us any money, and they'll get what they get, and they'll like it, or they can go, jump off a cliff, because all the money is in the TV broadcast. And a lot of people, not you obviously, but a lot of people, like, if they're out barbecuing or whatever, enjoying a nice afternoon, they'll have their device with them, their phone or their tablet or something, and then they will stream the Sportsnet television game on that device. So
they won't know a difference. They could either stream the Sportsnet video, which would cost them bandwidth, or they can stream just any audio from.
But then when they hear
or the Fan 590 audio,
when Buck does his whole "get out of here, ball, it's gone" or whatever he does, then they could turn their eyes to the screen and watch the replay of the homer and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think they care about radio, and we got to kind of accept that. They don't care about radio.
No, they don't. So it's obvious to see they're the only team in all of Major League Baseball that doesn't have a dedicated radio.
That was the first clue. That was the first clue.
What does that tell you? So the Jays are going to be exciting. We know that. The starting pitching is a question mark after Ryu, who starts tonight against Philadelphia. And the bullpen now is a question mark because Kirby Yates, we hardly knew ye, is going for UCL surgery, so he's out for 2 years or whatever. Wow. So forget about that. But George Springer, Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Kevin Biggio Jr., Teoscar Hernandez Jr., Rowdy Tellez Jr., Danny Jansen Jr.
They're all juniors.
What a squad. That's pretty good. I'm looking forward to these guys, maybe with the best hitting lineup in the American League East. Maybe. Because they're raking down there. They are raking it. And there isn't a soft spot in that batting order, from what I can see. It's not the first 5 or 6. And they'll be fun to watch as long as we don't have to endure the Yankee broadcasts much more, because those guys are horrible. I don't know what they were doing the other day, but they had 3 guys in remote locations, and the third guy was on a delay. So every time the third guy, I don't know who it was, went to say something, he was talking over another guy because he was getting their conversation 2 or 3 seconds later than the other 2 guys. So it was like 3 guys in 3 different time zones with 3 different amounts of time delays.
Yeah, that's tough. We know that's tough. Even us, we're in the same city, but it can be tough.
Exactly.
Do you think there's any chance the Jays go and get Osuna back? Is there any possibility?
No. It would be a public relations disaster.
I'm just asking the big question here.
A disaster. That guy is so forgotten now.
Right.
You don't think that he did some pretty bad stuff when he was here? You don't think that he was...
I think it would be a PR disaster to bring him back. But, I mean, they didn't. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm not even equating these two things. But
Wow.
Springer was everybody rejoiced when he came, even though previously we were all kind of angry at the cheater.
At all of the Houston.
I'm not equating what Springer did with Osuna in any regard, but that wasn't I mean, we all overlooked that easily. But Osuna coming back would be a PR disaster, no doubt.
Mike, you can't even.
No, I'm not. I'm not equating
mention
them.
the two in the same sentence. You can't.
Well,
two completely.
That's okay as long as you don't equate the two.
Things. Had Springer been run out of Toronto because of a gambling or cheating scandal or whatever, and then he had rehabilitated himself, gone to Gamblers Anonymous, or served a suspension, I could see saying, all right, you can bring him back. He's been rehabilitated. But I don't think you could do that with Roberto Osuna. No.
No, the outrage. Holy smokes.
Right. Especially now. So I want to ask you this, Mike. Do you think the Blue Jays or Maple Leafs would ever consider putting together an all-female broadcast like the Raptors did? And if so, who would they have on that broadcast?
Well, my answer is they're already planning it. Like, this is for sure.
Who is?
I don't know this for a fact. I'm speculating that for sure it's on their blueprint here, something they want to do. I think that this
there's no chance.
Really?
No.
Okay, somebody take a timestamp of this because I'm going to play this.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
The only way you can do this is if you promise that you're going to follow up, that this is going to be, let's say, an on-air audition for future opportunities to do live play-by-play televised sports.
Well, did TSN promise that when we got the all-women crew this week?
Obviously not, or else they would have followed up the next day with trade deadline stuff, which leads me to believe that their idea was, let's do it, pat ourselves on the back and move on. And my idea is this.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You see what's happening in the broadcast world?
Yeah, it's shrinking.
How long have Jack Armstrong, Leo Routens, Sam Mitchell, Rod Black been doing Raptors games?
Long time.
I'm not going to include Matt Devlin because Matt is sort of out of that equation. He's a play-by-play guy for life.
Well, a couple of those guys.
Pretty much for life.
Okay.
Having said that, that doesn't mean that some of the games might go to another.
Well, he'll need vacation time and things like that, right? And
stuff like that.
Okay, but two of those guys you mentioned, Rod Black and Leo Routens, I think they're day one guys.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're them, are you looking over your shoulder now, going, "Oh, geez, we better up our game," because if not, my job is going to be taken by Kayla Gray, and your job is going to be taken by Kate Burness, and maybe his job might be taken by Kia Nurse, and Megan McPeak might take that job. And is that a possibility? Is it a reality?
Yeah.
Or are these women kind of SOL? They did their one-off.
No.
Thanks.
No, now that they got like a real game, if you will, a real game under their belt, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think you could look at the mainstream media as a whole and say, and how do I say this? This is not my show, it's Hebsy show. But like, if you are a straight white guy, you better know that you don't have that old-fashioned guarantee of a gig. Absolutely, the desire to diversify is strong, and especially older, but not just older, but straight white guys are not part of the diversification strategy.
What if you're a super knowledgeable, entertaining, dynamic white guy who has experience in broadcasting and deserves a chance to climb up the ladder?
It's tough, Hebsy, because we're experiencing sort of like a market correction, if you will. I always felt like the on-air people should be reflective of the community. So it hasn't been for a long time, and we've been very critical of that. And I've noticed it's slowly changing, where it's starting to reflect more. And I will say, although, as we've talked, right, there's one woman of color at Sportsnet that I believe only one woman of color at Sportsnet at this moment, on the air I'm talking about, and her name is Hazel May. And there's two, although things that broadcast makes it a little muddy, like who is a TSN person and who isn't. But it was Kayla Gray and Reyes. Yeah, is she a TSN person now? Like it gets a little muddy. Yeah, like is she a TSN personality now? Like is she part of the roster?
She's been on the basketball broadcast, and she's been an analyst in the studio.
And
for a good part of the season.
And she's very, very good, which I think is most important.
Very good.
Yeah, I know. Isn't she, though?
She's a superstar.
Remind me,
and no offense to the women that are doing other sports.
Yeah.
but she's the best. And the reason for that is she's not only is she articulate, but she is an active WNBA player.
And so young, eh?
If you could find me an active female hockey player, active right now,
sure,
that is as glib and articulate as Kia Nurse, put her on the air. Find this one, put her on the air.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter that she's a female.
Right.
She's good.
And
it doesn't matter that she's a black female.
Right.
She's good. Period.
Megan's last name is what again?
McPeak.
So completely didn't know of her until I watched her the other day.
Well, she did the. I'm trying to think of the Raptors. Raptors 905 is their farm team.
Yeah.
She did I think the Washington Mystics, whoever their WNBA farm team is.
Okay.
She did those games. She's done a lot of basketball play-by-play.
But I mean, because I didn't know her at all when I watched it, I was thoroughly impressed because she was quite good. Like I thought it was a great team, her and Kia.
The chemistry was very good, and that's the thing. The chemistry was good. That's
what
you've got to have.
Of course, the older straight white guys who have been there forever, of course they definitely need to be looking over their shoulder because they're there's a new generation of talent coming up.
So if you're producing these games, if you're the high foreheads at TSN,
right?
Are you planning on transitioning all or some of the women that were on the air the other night into more full-time roles or more often on the airwaves?
For sure. Like Kate and Kayla are already there, right? Like they're already regular presence on the game, those two, Kate Burness and Kayla Gray.
Yes.
So I think 100%. Yeah. So I mean, you can say one and done, like as a stunt, which is like an all-woman crew, which is kind of a stunt, right? But the fact that many of these women are going to appear more often on basketball coverage at TSN.
You hope.
I'm sure of it.
And
time will tell.
I'd like to think not just NBA games, but what about all the basketball that TSN covers? They have the Canadian Women's, the CIAU. What do they call it now? U Sports.
Right.
Sure. Those?
Yeah, everywhere.
Is there international basketball that they have an opportunity to do?
For sure.
Qualifying for World Championships, Olympics.
And don't forget March Madness, right? TSN's got
March Madness, that's more studio cuttings, and I get that.
Right.
I get that. But March Madness now includes the women's NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
So there's more opportunities to do basketball.
For sure.
Are there going to be opportunities to do baseball? Are there opportunities to do hockey?
Well, why wouldn't that follow? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just why wouldn't that follow? And it's not going to happen overnight here, right?
I'm not an exec. If I were, I'll tell you right now, I'd make changes.
I think they're all meeting
not immediately,
right now.
But I'd be looking down the road to say, here's the way my future panel looks. Here's my future broadcast team. Yeah.
Now, if you had said this question to me, I don't know, a month ago, like if you were going to do an all-female broadcast of the Raptors, who would be on the roster? Like I didn't know of Megan at that time. And who's the other woman who co-hosted with Kate Burness?
Oh, that's she's really good. That's Amy Audibert.
Yeah, so I didn't.
She was. I think she's the women's coach at not Niagara College. Sorry, Brock University.
Yeah, sure.
But she was a big star at Niagara College.
Okay.
Good, a lot of international experience and very effusive. Very good, I thought, on the desk with Kate Burness.
Kate Burness, yeah. So this, and I mean, if we call it a stunt, whatever it was, what it did was it gave exposure to these talented broadcasters. Like people like me and you, especially me, who didn't know a couple of them, got to see their work. And basically, that's sort of your gateway to being a regular presence on broadcasts. Is you need to.
The thing is, they know their stuff, and they're considerably younger than the guys that we've been watching. And no offense again to these guys who have had good runs. But I think today, especially, the further you are away from the game, like Jack Armstrong was a great coach for Canisius College many years ago. And let's face it, has developed a great following.
Yeah.
He's got great shtick. He knows his stuff. The way he articulates, the way he does games.
He's popular.
He's got a great, very popular style. But unless we hear some of these women more often, we'll never know what kind of style they have, how good they are. We do know this with Kia Nurse, for sure. She's a superstar. But I believe if these other women got the same kind of exposure, excuse me, we would find out how knowledgeable they are, how entertaining they are. And it doesn't matter their gender. If they're good at what they do,
sure,
put them on the air.
Now the challenge will be sort of like when you have two guys who want the ball all the time, and you're like, wait, we only have one ball. Like it's so. The challenge will be, of course, to find that hybrid model where, and maybe it will. Maybe
it's a very good analogy.
Thank you. Thank you. So we might have to say goodbye to some of the longtime broadcasters we've had, even since day one. Simply, like I love Rod Black.
Is it not happening in every other sport? Is it
it's
not
happening all over the broadcast
place? Any day oneers? Hey, you're here since day one.
Right.
You've been here a number of years.
Retirement
thank you for your service.
Like, here's a cake for you, Rod Black, who I quite like. I had back-to-back episodes of Rod Black like a month ago. I really like Rod Black, but it's like, or maybe Rod, you're figure skating man or CFL guy, and maybe we have room on the NBA broadcast for a different perspective.
I think Sam Mitchell can go. I like Sam Mitchell. It's fine, but Sam Mitchell was the coach of the Raptors dozens of years ago, whatever it was. He's further away from the game, and why couldn't you put Kayla, or why wouldn't you put Kia Nurse in Sam Mitchell's spot? Like, say, Sam, it was great. Thanks. Appreciate it. I'm sure you can find a gig somewhere else. Maybe you don't have another broadcasting gig. I'm sorry for that. Blah, 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 blah. But we need to have Kia Nurse on the air. And the WNBA schedule is directly opposite the NBA. They don't go up against the NBA.
Right.
So her off season is broadcasting season for her if she wants. And she's good.
Yeah. The gig's hers if she wants it. Maybe she doesn't want. Maybe she wants to make real money somewhere else.
I don't know how much she's being paid in the WNBA, and she living in Phoenix, and I don't know.
Who knows?
Excuse me. More changes in the all sports radio world, Mike. There's more coming to the Fan 590. I can tell you right now, pretty soon in Toronto. But a few weeks after one of Vancouver's all sports radio stations went dark, the other station, Sportsnet 650, rearranged their entire lineup and got rid of 3 prominent and well-paid broadcasters.
Right.
Do you know who?
I know this, but I'll let you tell the story.
The morning show team of James Cebulski and Perry Solkowski, veteran broadcasters, gone. Their morning show duo, done. Replaced by the guys who did a thing called, it was a curtain back blog. It was the Curtain blog, Orland Curtainback.
Interesting.
A former Vancouver Canuck, and they've been around for years. I can't think of their names, but they're the new morning show.
Well, there's no competition, right?
And Andrew Walker.
Yes.
Your buddy Andrew Walker.
FOTM Andrew Walker. Gone.
So all this talk about how great everybody is and all that, and they are. You could be fantastic. You could be the best at your job. But if management at that station decides that changes need to be made to save money, and you've got 3 guys that are probably making, between the 3 of them, $500,000, maybe more.
Wow.
And you got to cut costs. And you can get somebody for $45,000 or $65,000 to do that job. 3 guys at $65,000 each, or $80,000 each, to replace $500,000 or more in salary. You're going to do it. And don't think that it's not going to happen at the Fan in Toronto. Don't think they're not going to sit there and go, we don't even have a program director yet.
Do you think somebody like a Jeff Blair is in trouble?
No. Jeff's solid because that baseball show that he does is great. He's been doing it for a number of years, and he's a good journalist. I don't particularly, I don't warm to his voice. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the reason I ask is because we just acknowledged that your salary might be the only factor in these decisions.
Oh, in a lot of cases, yeah.
So it wouldn't matter that he's a good journalist, because no doubt Jeff Blair is a good journalist. I'm just spitballing with you.
If you're going to look at it that way, then yeah, you've got to look at the highest salaried people at these places.
So tell me,
let's face it, Sportsnet, Bob McCowan, Don Cherry, Big Don, John Shannon, Doug McLean, Nick Kiprios, big money people.
Right.
Were the first ones to let go. You got to wipe those numbers off the books, replaced by people that aren't making as much money.
So who's got a target on their back? I don't know how much money
Anthony Stewart's making. I don't know how much they're paying Kevin Bieksa, Cassie Campbell, Anson Carter when he comes in. I don't know how much Frege makes. He makes a good buck. I don't know how much Chris Johnson makes, or Sean McKenzie makes, or Kyle Bukakis makes. I don't know. But I can tell you they're not making the bucks that Ron McLean's making.
Right. Now, let me ask you, Hebsy, who at the Fan 590 right now should be looking over their shoulder?
All of them. Look at the way this business is. Nobody is safe. If I were to say to you, Mike, give me the name of a Toronto sports broadcaster whose job is so solid that they would never in a million years get rid of that person. Name me someone. Dan Shulman. No chance of Dan Shulman ever losing his job, right?
Well, ESPN would. He has multiple jobs.
But I mean, on Sportsnet,
right?
There's no way that Sportsnet would say, "Look, Dan, we can't afford you. You got to go. We had to get rid of the radio broadcast. Now we got to get rid of you." Not going to happen. Now, everybody else in sports media in Toronto, everyone else cannot say categorically that their job is safe. No one's going to go unless they got an ironclad contract. My job is safe. So James Duthie's job is pretty safe, I think, at TSN. He would have to do something really stupid to lose that job.
And he's a good
TSN
boy.
TSN is not going to go, oh, no, we got to cut Duthie. He makes too much money. Am I right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking in my head, so you think even a David Amber needs to be looking over his shoulder?
Yeah, why not? I don't know.
Only because we just talked about the need to diversify. Like, it feels like he's such a solid broadcaster.
What if you replaced David Amber with a female of color?
I don't know. This is all very tricky, except I feel like...
It's very speculative, but you're right. Nobody should feel safe in light of what's going on in the broadcasting business, and especially in sports broadcasting.
Well, that sucks, Hebsy. Like, you know what it's like to do your job when you know you're a dead man walking or you're looking over your shoulder. Like, that's bad for your health. It's bad for your everything.
It's this business is eating its young. And people in Vancouver were shocked as well. And how shocked can you be when they just shuttered an entire radio station that had good ratings? Really? How? I can't listen to someone go, I am shocked anymore when they lose their job in broadcasting. I can't, because you shouldn't have been shocked. Look what's going on around you.
It's a bit shocking, though. It's a bit shocking because TSN Radio in Vancouver turned into something else. I think it's a funny station or something. Whatever it turned into, can't even remember now. But that is shocking because you now own the sports radio in your city, and these are known commodities. These three names were well known in the market and had big ratings. Because
I don't know how good their ratings were. That's just it.
Well, because I understand they got a bump.
Hang on. The ratings were good on TSN 1040, which shuttered. Yeah. Did the management at 650 think that those people would come over and start listening to the shows of the morning show with Cebulski and Solkowski, or Andrew Walker's afternoon show?
Right.
And how long did it take them to realize, you know what? This may not do it. This may not get us the numbers that we want, that we can go to advertisers. Remember, it's AM radio, where we can go to advertisers and say, we want to charge this much for a commercial on this show. Now, suppose the advertiser said, oh, yeah, that's okay. But boy, if you got those guys from the Curtain blog, or you got this guy here or that woman there, maybe we would pay more for the spots.
Huh.
Maybe it's right up our demographic. Maybe we don't see ourselves going in that same direction. Maybe we want to go this way now. Now is a perfect time. Rejig the lineup. New morning show, new afternoon drive show, new midday show, new evening show.
Yeah, blow it up.
Rebrand Sportsnet 650.
Okay, now Andrew Walker, who most listeners of Hebsy on Sports, well, you're a national presence actually, but a lot of GTA listeners know Andrew Walker used to be with Greg Brady on the Fan 590.
They had the morning show. They had good numbers on that show. Very good.
Yeah, big number. They got blown up for Blundell, as I remember.
I know. What a mistake, though.
Which was quite a mistake in hindsight. But and again, what is the morning show? Sorry, what is the afternoon drive in Vancouver right now? Like, what took over for Andrew Walker? Do you know?
No, I have no idea. I don't care either because I don't listen to Vancouver.
No,
radio.
I mean, I know. I don't, except that you knew the morning show.
Specific.
So. Okay.
I'm sure it's three people who combined make, $200,000. And it's Canucks specific.
So what is a guy like, not that we know Andrew Walker. I know you're tighter with
150 grand.
But my understanding is he had a little swagger in his step. Like I think his Twitter bio said King of Vancouver Radio or something. Like he had a bit of that.
That might have been a mistake. And look, he wasn't a Toronto guy. He came to Toronto. He tried to pull off being a Toronto guy. He worked with Brady, who's pretty much a Toronto guy, right?
Sure. Or Detroit guy.
and then he didn't have the knowledge or the past history of being from Toronto or being a Toronto Leafs fan or whatever He's from somewhere else. So
well, he's from Calgary, I think, with Mike Richards.
Yeah, and I never thought, there's a guy. Why do we need a guy from Calgary talking about what it was like, growing up a Toronto Maple Leaf fan when he wasn't? Then he went to Vancouver, and I don't know. And now he's not coming back here. That's for sure, man. I didn't think he was that good in the first place. It wasn't for Brady, I think, propped him up.
Interesting. Okay.
Did you think he was good? I never heard him on his own, but I didn't think he was that good.
I thought that the two together were very good.
Yes, they were.
But
Brady would challenge him. Brady would say to him, like, who was your favorite Leaf growing up or whatever? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Toronto Sports Radio.
It was Jerome,
590.
His favorite,
all the Leaf games.
His favorite Leaf growing up was Jerome McGinley, I think. That was Andrew Walker. But anyway, he seemed like a nice gentleman. Yeah. I can't remember how old he must be now because it's been a while since I know I've seen him. But he had a good gig there. And
apparently not.
It was good, past tense, but I feel sorry for all these guys because I know what that's like. Like it's just a shitty feeling. Like what does Andrew Walker do next, right? Like what does he do next? Hold on, I think he's calling me right now.
We said that about every single sports personality in the last however many years.
Sure, and half of them went into security.
What's Bob McCown going to do? What's Nick Kiprios going to do? Yeah. What's Doug McLean going to do?
Right.
What's George Stroumboulopoulos going to do?
Well, that's different.
What's Damian Cox going to do? Let's list every single what Dave Randorf's going to do. Well, Dave Randorf got a job doing the Tampa play-by-play. Let's take everyone that's lost their job in sports media in the last couple of years. Let's do a where are they now?
That would be a great episode, actually.
It would.
And just
let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. But Strombo's not a sports guy, so you can remove him from that list.
But Strombo, they put him in there as the voice, the face of Hockey Night in Canada. And they did a 360 and went back to Ron McLean.
That is true. Thank you.
And they realized that might have been a mistake, and they got rid of Don Cherry. Found an opportunity there. Right. Anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Tim Peel was about to retire from the NHL after a lengthy career as a referee when he said something during a game the other night that was picked up by a live microphone near ice level. Peel said that he was going to give an effing penalty to Nashville. And right then and there, the NHL heard an official admitting, premeditated, he was going to call a penalty against the team. And, of course, they fired him immediately because, let's face it, that goes against the integrity of NHL officials. But we all know that even-up calls or make-up calls are a part of hockey, don't we? It's just that nobody admits to it. Well, Peel kind of did to a live mic. He got caught, and he's gone. Should he have been fired a month before he was going to retire with full honors and probably some kind of a ceremony? Congratulations, Tim Peel, on a great career. He shouldn't have been fired.
Really?
What I find ironic here, Mike, bitterly ironic, is that Peel's firing was in fact an even-up call by the NHL, by the league. After all these years of letting this go, and allowing this to happen, and being criticized for poor calls, poor judgment, and maybe some officials not being disciplined and others being disciplined too harshly, the league decides, let's fire Tim Peel, makes us look good because the integrity of the game is intact. And yet they don't address the situation, which is, this has been a problem way before Tim Peel. How does an official call 8 penalties on this team and none on this team? And at the same time, how does an official, let's say it's a 4-0 game in favor of Washington over the Rangers. Let's say Washington had clobbered the Rangers the night before. And this game is going to get out of hand if Washington scores any more goals. And the official says, I need to slow this game down. I need to call a couple penalties on Washington. They're not going to lose the game, but I got to stop this because the next scuffle is going to be a major fight. There's going to be serious repercussions. So the referee has a feel for the game and he says, man, next hit that happens, it's going to be a brawl. And he calls a penalty on Washington. It's a ticky-tack penalty, but he has to call it for the flow of the game. I'm okay with that, Mike. I'm okay if the referee is trying to manage a game and doesn't feel that this particular call is going to affect the outcome of a game. I'm okay. It's not the greatest thing, but it's been going on for a long time. And it probably happens in basketball too, maybe not as much. If a ref admits that he blew the call and then says, I'm going to eat in his own mind, I screwed that one up. And then he goes and offers a makeup call. Maybe not immediately, maybe later, maybe at a time of the game where it doesn't mean as much. I don't know. But Tim Peel got caught. He got fired. He shouldn't have been fired. He should have been suspended, reprimanded. But come on, you're a month away from your last NHL game. And I think the league overreacted here, and I think they're covering up for their own problems. They need to support the officials. And in this case here, all right, he's been around for a long time. Every coach you talk to has respect for Tim Peel. Every single player, except for some of the new guys who bitch and complain about every ref, has nothing but respect for Tim Peel. But the National Hockey League, his employers, don't have respect for him. That's a shame.
Hebsy, the two words you use that we have to amplify here is got caught. Like, it's one thing to say we know this happens, but he basically gave him the smoking gun. Like what's the NHL supposed to do? Like, I think this is this is like the third rail. Like, no, the integrity of the officiating.
Do you think people are going, oh my God, I can't believe that officials have actually, said that he was going to call a penalty? Come on.
I was not shocked at all he was fired, because I think that is like a third rail when it comes to officiating. No. Regardless of where you are in your career, I think that's a third rail. Like, to say it out loud and to get caught saying, I'm going to give a penalty to this team, like regardless of whether it's, earned or deserved, even though you can say, and I understand your point, like this has been going on forever. This is, we all know about the makeup call, whatever. We have the smoking gun. He's gone. This is black and white part of the
Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm an umpire. I'm a home plate umpire. You come to the plate and you've been chirping me the whole game. The whole game. You've been arguing every call. You've been looking at me, making me look bad. And I say to you, you better get in there and swing, because every pitch is going to be a strike. And you strike out on a pitch way above your head, and you go back and you say, you know what? It was premeditated. He wanted to call me out. He wanted to get me out of the game, or something to that effect. That happens. Right?
Sure.
And so is Major League Baseball going to suspend the ump or fire the ump for suggesting that he was going to call a strike on the guy no matter where the pitch was?
Can I, if I may, let's say a hot mic catches this umpire saying that sentence. He's gone too.
I don't think so. He gets suspended. He gets a warning. You don't just fire a guy unless he's multiple offender. Multiple. It's done this many times. We've warned you. That's it. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Anyway, that's my opinion on the Tim Peel thing.
We love your
he was going to retire in a month anyway. Yeah. The NHL just said, you're gone. Goodbye. Now, the NHL does not have a great history of handling their referees a certain way. Not that the referees haven't done certain things that might be nefarious, but I remember the Red story when he was an official, and Clarence Campbell had criticized him to the media. He said he froze on 2 calls and should have called penalties in a playoff game, which he didn't. And Red Story quit the next day. He basically gave them a big FU. If my employers isn't going to back me, doesn't have my back, then I can't work for this employer. Mike, did your boss have your back? Did Andy Van Helleman's bosses at the NHL have his back when he was criticized roundly for blowing a call in the Rangers final and basically was fired for that? Come on. Got to have the guy. If my boss doesn't have my back, I can't work for him. So, all right. The other night, Patrick Kane of the Chicago Blackhawks played in his 1,000th NHL game. Wow. It's got a nice ring to it. 1,000 games. Yeah. You played 1,000 games. And naturally, they made a big deal. The players came out and all wore Patrick Kane jerseys during the warm-up. It was lovely. And I thought, 1,000 games. Boy, I seem to think that every year, there's like 5, 6, 8 guys that pass the 1,000-game milestone. Happens a lot. NBA, I don't see it that often. They play the same number of games, but I don't see it. But in the NHL, 4 lines, you could be a 4th-line player and play 1,000 games. Right? You can play 9 minutes a night, 12 minutes a night, and have a nice long career. And then suddenly it's like, hey, we've got a stick for you. We've got a ceremony for you. You got a trip around the world with your family because you played 1,000 games. And I'm thinking, 1,000 games is nothing. That's nothing. Everyone's played 1,000 games in the NHL. So I decided to do some research. So, Mike, you tell me, the NHL and the NBA have the same number of games in a season, 82. Major League Baseball has twice as many, 162.
Sure.
So for every NHL player that played 1,000 games, for every NBA player that played 1,000 games, for every Major League Baseball player that played 2,000 games. Which sport is the easiest to reach that milestone?
I'm going to say it's I'm going to say it's hockey.
Easily. How many players do you think have played 1,000 NHL games? By the way, five players this year have already reached the 1,000-game plateau.
Hebsy, I don't even know.
Mike, take a wild guess.
150.
There have been thousands of players. Oh, yeah. How many have played 1,000 games?
150.
353.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If I were to list some of the players, some of the fourth line slogs that played 1,000 NHL games, and at the same time named some fantastic players, wonderfully talented players who didn't play 1,000 games.
Oh.
Right? You would be shocked. You would.
That second list sounds intriguing. Like, I know Lindros, for example, had injury concerns and never hit 1,000 games. But
Bobby Orr played 645.
Wow.
So you played 1,000 games. That's great. That equals about 12, a little over 12 seasons. If you played every game, but 12 seasons. How many NHL players have played 12 seasons? Lots. Tons.
Yeah.
So the NHL has 353 players that have reached 1,000. The NBA, 145.
There you go.
And every one of them, a damn good player. Damn good player.
Yeah. Because sometimes they
line
only play
players in
8
the
guys.
NBA.
So like sometimes they shorten that bench and 8 guys get on the court. Right.
There you go. But in the NHL, you could play 5 minutes a game as a fourth line player and play 1,000 games. And Major League Baseball, 2,000 games, 245 players. The next will be Edwin Encarnacion if he gets a job.
Right.
He's only 40 games away from 2,000 in his Major League career. He's the closest.
Wow.
So hockey is the easiest. So should we be making a big deal of 1,000th game? No, come on. But it's a nice round number. And it's only been achieved by 353 previous guys. And, I said the other night, Patrick Kane has joined the likes of such luminaries as Mike Knuble, reaching the 1,000 game plateau. Ian LaPerriere.
Wow.
1,000 game plateau. So when the time comes where you're comparing great players, are you going to put Mike Knuble and Ian LaPerriere in the same category as Patrick Kane?
No.
And that's my rant.
I got a dumb question, though. When you count games, are you counting playoff games?
No, just regular season games.
So don't you think that's stupid? Don't you think they should include playoff games?
Nah.
Like, think of how many games Kane has played.
It's a separate category in every...
I feel like it should count. Like, it's...
And here's why. What if you have a great player who just, for some reason, his team never made it to the playoffs? Right?
Sure.
All those games, never got into the playoffs.
Well, it sucks to be
Does that make him less of a player because his team didn't make the playoffs?
Not always, no.
Right. But yeah, I guess if I would have gone back and combined,
Well, think about how many playoff games.
Total number of games, including playoffs.
Because Kane's got 3 rings, right? Like, there's a lot of playoff games under that man's belt.
Huh. Okay.
Interesting.
And I don't know how many playoff games Mike Knuble or Ian LaPerriere played, comparatively speaking, but you're right. Okay. Before we go, 91-year-old Rick Azar passed away yesterday. Rick Azar was part of the big 3 Buffalo sportscasters, me growing up. Rick Azar was on Channel 7, WKBW Eyewitness Sports. His counterpart on Channel 2 was Ed Kilgore. Right. Now, Ed came a little later. Rick was there from like the late 50s. I think Ed came in the 60s, maybe the early 70s. I don't know. And there was Van Miller at WIVB TV.
Right.
Then you got other guys like Chuck Healy, Clip Smith, guys like that Stu Boyer, I'm trying to think who else. Dick Reifenberg back in the day. These were the Buffalo sports. These were I learned my American sports from these guys. Not from the guys on CBC or CFTO here in Toronto, but from the American sportscasters out of Buffalo, New York. Rick Azar was one of the best. Met him several times. Had him on my radio show in the 80s.
Wow. Many times.
Because anytime there was stuff to talk, the Bills or the Sabres or the Buffalo Braves back then, Rick Azar was available. Eyewitness Sports, baby. 5 minutes of dynamite.
Wow.
He was great.
And I think
rest in peace, Rick Azar.
Rest in peace, Rick Azar. And I think Patrick Kane's from Buffalo, right?
He sure is.
So it all comes together. Love to Buffalo.
Done. Wrap that up with a bow. That's it for episode 225 of Hebsy on Sports. Thanks to Toronto Mike, as always, for production, inspiration, sometimes aggravation, but not too often. And check out the Toronto Mike podcast. It's a beauty. He's had some great guests lately. I got some listening to do this weekend. I got to catch up on some of the
and thank you
Carol Pope
I
broadcast.
was going to ask you, where did you take the picture of Carol Pope with Nash the Slash? Where is that photo
Where
from?
did I take that picture? That's just off of Queen Street, west of Bathurst.
Amazing, because we do talk about that in the Carol Pope episode. Very cool.
Thanks for allowing us into your headspace. Back with another exciting episode next week. Until then, so long for now. This podcast has been produced by TMDS and accelerated by Roam Phone. Roam Phone brings you the most reliable virtual phone service to run your business and protect your home number from unwanted calls. Visit roamphone.ca to get started.
Okay, podcast done, and let me just turn off our cameras here. Beautiful. Say goodbye to the. I realize it's hard for me to keep track of all the places you're live, so I've been basically focusing on your YouTube account here, which has a lot of good activity here.
See, I don't get any of those comments. I have no idea. You're gonna have to send them to me. Send me a screen grab because I don't get them anywhere.
That's so what a design flaw that is for YouTube. Okay, let me copy and paste it right after I turn off.
I mean, if there's some good comments.
Well, no, it'd be fun to look. I mean, it's very active, that's for sure. And Dale Cadeau was chiming in to tell us about the Vancouver station.
Do I get these on Facebook? Am I getting the same comments on the Facebook feed?
Well, Facebook it's obviously different ecosystem, different comments, like different people.
So it's different comments.
It's almost like you should maybe stop going. I don't know. It's up to you. But right now we go live in both places, so it kind of like cannibalizes. Like half go to one place and half go to the other. But you only tweet the YouTube link, so that's where a lot of the people end up. But
right. By the way, Facebook it only goes on my business page. It doesn't go on my Mark Hebsy.
That's true, because we're only live on your Facebook page, because I need to be an admin of the page. I think you have to be a business page to make me admin. But I'm sending you right now an email, and we're still on the live stream. I'll turn it off in a second. But I'm going to send you the comments. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everybody for watching, and we'll be back next Friday at 9:20. Peace and love.
Thank you, everyone.